Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new series we're going to be starting on the channel, The Future of the World, Episode 1. So, I'm going to try and start to do these, or do this series differently now. I've done a lot of these, and I'm going to sort of make this the main one, and hopefully every week. I'm not sure when it'll be out, but yeah, but we're going to do, each episode's going to be a different year. So this episode will be 2023, the next episode 2 would be 2024, 3, 2025, episode 4, 2026, etc. So they would be quite long, some of them would be short, depends on what happens, but obviously this is season 1, so there might be different seasons along the line with different maps. And let's get right into it. So the first thing that's probably quite obvious it's going to happen is the Russian-Ukrainian war. Now, I think I mapped this in my return video last time. It's about like what they think, or what I think would happen in the future of this. Now, there's a lot of possibilities. Now, obviously, as you know, there's Russia, and then there's Ukraine. Now, I'm not entirely sure what has been going on between the two at the moment. All I know is that Russia has pretty much still got the same front line as they have had for the past couple of months now. I think about that is what they have. Maybe a bit thicker, maybe, yeah, about that. So they haven't really got too much of Ukraine. They're definitely attacking, but I haven't seen any counter-attacks, defending attacks. I just know they're probably just shooting each other, really. But I'm going to say that in the future, Russia does get attacked by Ukraine, and it causes Russia to basically stomp out its full military. Doing this, Ukraine gets heavily supplied by other countries around the world, like such as Poland, Germany, and all the NATO countries. But it is too quick for Russia, who comes storming into the north of the country and move down up on front lines to both surround Kharkiv. They do this in a more tactical way than Ukraine would fought, but Ukraine do see where they're pushing, they rush to defend the two areas. With not having enough troops to defend the two areas, they do let Kharkiv be surrounded, and Russians continue to push out. Now Russia are making Ukraine look silly and very easy to eliminate or like invades, because they've got their full army. Ukraine has still got this batch here, but Russia are now trying to surround it as they're trying to wipe out as many troops as they can. Ukraine are holding their lines, but in Kharkiv, things aren't going on until the full city surrenders. Kiev is under threat, so President Zelensky does flee to Poland, who later, in a month's time, after he finds out he's been looked by Russian agents in Poland, does flee to the US. Russia then continue to push into Ukraine, and now Ukraine just doesn't have a president, who's pretty much might die. They're slowly starting to fall apart. Odetsk, or I'm not really sure on the city name, falls, Mariupol falls, Kharkiv falls. Now it's just Lviv and Kiev. Belarus do join this war, and they do begin to push down to surround Kiev, which does end up happening. And now the Russians are storming up from the south to Lviv. Belarus pushes in from the north of Ukraine, and they've now completely surrounded Lviv. Kiev does fall within a matter of days, and Lviv doesn't fall, falls very shortly after. So yeah, Russia's just smacked Ukraine out of the picture. That would have taken, I think, if it's April now, that would have taken 2 months, so it'd be about June. So this is June 2023, and Russia are currently dominating Ukraine. So we're going to draw up the borders of what I think would happen. So I think Russia would go in and take, if I do that, think they would go in and take something like that. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Maybe I'd say they take all of that and then leave... I think they'd leave Ukraine with, like, a desk. That looks weird. It needs to, like, come out and then go back in like that. That's a really weird border, though. What if I was to make it come out like that? No, I think, do you know what? I think we'll just go with something like that. So that's the new Ukraine, I guess. So Russia takes the borders. I just had a very bad voice crack there. And yeah, that's the new Russian Federation. Now, this isn't just a free Ukraine. It's a Russian puppet of Ukraine. So now Russia basically just owns all of Ukraine, but they didn't want to annex it all. But they do have a chance to go into Moldova. Now, this does cause some tension with Romania, but since Romania is in NATO, Russia can't physically attack them. So it's like diplomatic solutions to try and figure out until eventually Romania can't really... I mean, both sides can't do anything, because if they were to shoot a gun across their borders, bam, it's World War III. And they can't really do anything like that. So Russia sort of dodges not being able to do it and gives its puppet the chance to annex Moldova. Here we have the new Ukrainian puppet and the new Russian Federation. Now, Belarus is in the process of joining the Russian Federation, but they don't really tell anyone. It sort of like happens. People get told the day it happens. Now, looking across the world, we're going to go through the world alliances and sort of what's going on. So this is June 2023 still. So we have NATO, the new pact formed, which does include, obviously, I don't know if Mexico are in NATO. I don't know. I'm not sure who's in NATO at the moment. But obviously, I think the new news that was that Finland joined NATO. And that sort of... But I know... I think Montenegro's in NATO. Turkey is. Kosovo ain't. They are. Yeah, so Finland's now in NATO. I think that's the whole alliance. Maybe I might be a tiny bit wrong. Yeah, but NATO does begin to expand as countries such as not Mexico, actually, because that's... Yeah, NATO does begin to expand with countries such as Montenegro and who actually saved themselves, Georgia, who joined NATO. With this, Russia can't really attack Georgia anymore because Azerbaijan will come to Georgia's aid, and I mean, they can't attack them because it would start World War III. With Russia seeing this, they do get quite scared and decide to form their own pact. This is called the... I can't think of the name. This is called the RDA, the Russian Defense Administration. Why is that there? This is called the Russian Defense Administration. Includes some countries such as Russia, Belarus, the Ukrainian puppet, Serbia, Armenia, North Korea, and Kazakhstan. It includes all these different countries of, like, Russian pact, but they probably do end up changing the name to CSCO. CSKO, I'm not sure what the name is. But we do see some other pacts form. Now, all of Africa is struggling economically. Now, this isn't a military pact, it's an economic pact. So they all meet in the Ethiopian capital, which I'm not actually entirely sure what it is. It's a weird name. About something like that, BA something. They all meet there, and the countries that meet there are countries such as DR Congo, Uganda, Kenya and Uganda. That's Uganda there. Namibia, Zimbabwe, Chad, Ethiopia, obviously, and Nigeria. All these countries meet to form a pact. Oh, and also Madagascar. All these countries meet to form an economic pact, which basically they protect all of themselves, and they can also trade and all that. Now we come to the Asian Pact. This is quite a weird pact. It's another economic one, and it's quite a small one. It's between Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Taiwan, which isn't invaded by China in the end. Now, it's an economic / protect pact. They don't really want to join NATO. NATO's probably going to change its status to be like the World Defensive Order. But they can't join NATO as it is against the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, and they're not in the North Atlantic. So, yeah. So that's all the alliances for now. I think now we're going to get into the next major event. Now, this next major event is South Sudan does lose its independence to Sudan. I think South Sudan's border was like that. Something like that. But we are going to go into the depths of some sort of Middle Eastern war. Now, who's this Middle Eastern war between? Well, it's between quite a few countries. These countries are Syria, Iraq, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Palestine. Lebanon also joins the blue side. Oh, and Kuwait as well. These countries all got against these three as like some sort of big war. And yeah, so we're going to start the treaty now. So, what happened? So, Syria and Iraq are getting attacked, but Palestine declares war on Israel. Lebanon gets involved, getting attacked from Syria. Kuwait gets involved, and Saudi Arabia gets involved with Jordan. This annoys Iran, who also get involved, and most of the Middle East break into chaos. Only countries that don't are UAE, Oman, Kuwait, UAE, Oman, Yemen, Qatar, Egypt, Sudan, Turkey, and all the countries up here. But anyway, we're going to get straight into the war, sort of what happens, because Iran ain't in or aren't in Russia's pact. That ain't going to do a lot, is it? No. It wouldn't. It needs to be on the other layer. Oh, it's just... So I haven't done mapping in so long. But, yeah, so... Get a lot of different... I mean, Iran ain't in Russia's defence pact. So it's very hard. So it's quite hard for them because they're practically on their own, as like all these guys are full of mess. But anyway, we're going to get straight into the war. So the first thing that happens is Israel and Jordan make an advance and do take Palestine quite easily. Syria, who's like 3 different organisations, breaks up. Well, it doesn't break down to war. The Syrian civil war ends, but it doesn't. Iran does begin to ship soldiers down as they want to take Kuwait as quickly as they can. And that's what they do. Iran uses or teams up with Iraq, and they quickly storm into Kuwait and take the whole country. With this, Saudi Arabia now has to rely on Israel, Jordan, and Lebanon to save them. Lebanon can't save them, can they? And Jordan's pretty weak as well. Well, Jordan does begin to get invaded, and they are now pushing down the borders and into Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabian forces do manage to arrive, but not in time for a whole massive front line to be formed across them, cutting them off from their allies. With this, Israel does have to defend, and they do, launching a counterattack into Syria, Lebanon, and taking part of Jordan back. With this, they've basically just defended themselves off from any forces from storming into them quick, but Saudi Arabia now has to begin the fight. And they do so attacking near Egypt, bombing the place, and they are kind of reconnected to their allies now. But at the same time, down by Kuwait, the advance does begin to take shape, and they do begin to move quicker into part of Saudi Arabia. This angers the Arabians, or the Saudis, who do begin to terrorise, would say, Iraq, Syria and Iran. Terrorise means they begin to bomb all the shelters that soldiers living in, and they kill hundreds of thousands, or they kill thousands of soldiers from all red team countries. Now, it does become a brutal war, with Israel kind of dominating where they are, pushing into Syria, retaking Lebanon, and making a really good defensive line across. But they can't seem to force Iraqi soldiers out of Lebanon, as Iran are continuing to attack Saudi Arabia. So much so that they now go after the middle of Saudi Arabia and push down further into the country. Saudi Arabia now meet up with Israel and form a really long battle line across the whole, pretty much most of the Middle East, against Iran. Now, this war would, in my eyes, in real life, it would be a stalemate, because both sides are as strong as each other. Syria, not so much. Iraq, meh. Kuwait is like a toy. You could flip them and they're invaded. But Iran and Saudi Arabia, I don't think really ever end. Now, this is about July. This is late July, early August. So about August 1st, this war is happening right now. But it's about July. It's probably started about the 1st of July and it's currently the 1st of August. But Iran does begin to develop nuclear weapons. And this does sort of encourage Saudi Arabia to. Saudi Arabia does begin to form a counterattack against Iraq and Syria. And Iran does notice this, that they're pretty much going to get battered now that Saudi Arabia have all their forces ready. So what does Iran do? Oh, well, they wuss out of the war. They declare they're leaving the war and they declare peace against Saudi Arabia and all the allies, which basically just makes Iraq and Syria go, oh well, we're stuffed. And they quickly, with the withdrawal of Iranian forces, move back and begin to take all land. Now, what they'd think is that they'd redraw from Syria and Iraq, and it'd be like this war never happened. But they don't. They invade the countries to stop any other wars from happening, and it goes pretty quick. Syria falls the first. Iraq's a bit more tricky, but it doesn't take long for Iraq to just go, alright, we surrender. And that is the second war of the video already done. And if you hear me coughing a lot, I got a bit of a sore throat today, and I couldn't really miss the upload schedule. So yeah. So, we're going to take a look at the peace treaty that happened. So, now Kuwait gets a bit of land out of Iraq. Well, not a bit, I'd say they get a lot. They make themselves a big country, and Saudi Arabia does donate some land to them. Now, this does form Kuwait to be a stronger power in the Middle East. But, I mean, Iran doesn't get spared. Well, Iran does get spared. Iran do go to the peace treaty, and they agree that if they take over a lot of Iraq should just sort of shut up shop, and there shouldn't be too much aggravation. So they do. They take I wouldn't say a lot of Iran, but they take Iraq, but they take enough. They take about this much, and Iran is now a bigger area. But this does cause some distribution with Turkey, and these two do begin to hate each other even more than they do in real life. Palestine does get beaten up by Israel, and Israel does unite with, well, they don't unite, actually. We won't make them do that. But Israel gets Palestine, but Lebanon even gets a bit of land out of Syria, which is about that much. Now, I don't get given too much, as it's kind of supposed to be realistic as a type. Now, what does this cause? This causes Iraq and Syria to unite, even though they're quite a small country now. I mean, Saudi Arabia takes a bit, Jordan takes a bit out of them on both sides. So I'd say we whip up the borders. So like that is an ugly looking border. I'm just gonna fix that quick. There you go, that's alright. And then actually I'll keep that there because it looks quite. Yeah, but Saudi Arabia does take a bit of land from Iraq. And it's sort of a bit of a win-win from everybody except Iraq and Iran. Now, Lebanon and Jordan do decide to unite. And now they've got a bit of a gross border. So they do go to a peace treaty and they fix up that border. So now the border looks like this. It looks a lot better. And yeah, that's sort of what's happened now. Iran has gained land. Kuwait has gained a lot of land. There's two new countries. There's the Middle Eastern Defense, or the Middle Eastern, or the Middle East. I don't know what this country would be called. It's called Sarak. That's what we'll call it. We'll call it Sarak. So we have Sarak and we have Jordan. We'll call it Jordan. So these are the sort of countries. We got Sarak, we got Jordan, we got Israel, Saudi Arabia. Colour in black. Saudi Arabia and then Iran. So I think we're going to do one more event and then we'll probably end off the video. Now this one might be too big an event, but it'd be big enough. Well, it won't be too big. It won't be that big. It is a little bit of a dispute between Ireland and United Kingdom. Now, it's not going to be on the map, but basically, they both have a bit of a spat, and they go into a war, which doesn't do much. It kind of just blows up part of Northern Ireland. Well, it doesn't even blow up. It doesn't cause any damage. It's a diplomatic war, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I think that's where we're going to end the video here, guys. I hope you guys have really enjoyed the first episode. Next episode, it'll be 2024, because we're now probably about November, and nothing really happens. And then, yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.